So this video is probably going to be already pretty outdated by next weekend even with Comic Con because Mark Guggenheim has already teased that at Arrow's panel this year at San Diego Comic Con, which takes place on July 20th, which is the Saturday of the Comic Con, that we're going to find out some guest stars who will be appearing in Arrow's final season. They're probably going to be people we've seen in the show before, so I thought it'd be fun to kind of talk about who we will see in Arrow Season 8, or who I would like us to see. Obviously the characters we know we're going to see is like Oliver, obviously Team Arrow mostly, like Renee, Diggle, Dinah, probably Black Siren, and then the Flash Forward characters and stuff like that. Like, the characters who have been pretty big in the last 2 or 3 seasons we'll definitely see in the final season. Roy as well will most likely be seeing. But Arrow has such a wide cast of characters, and Arrow has a lot of characters in the past that have been fantastic that I would love to see return. There are so many characters who we haven't seen in years and years that I would think that we couldn't go out without seeing these characters in some form or getting some kind of like heads up on where they are. Another thing is that Arrow Season 8 has the possibility to bring in so many characters that we haven't seen in so long because of the fact that Oliver is off with the Monitor. Oliver will be traveling the multiverse probably with the Monitor, and it's so entirely possible we could see characters who've been dead since season 1. We could see them on a different Earth, or we could even do time travel stuff. Because of the whole Monitor situation, we really do have an opportunity to dig into the show's past in a way that we haven't gotten the chance to do before. Maybe even we'll get to visit Arrow's past, some prior seasons of the show. If we don't know if the Monitor can time travel in the Arrowverse, but if he can, I think it'd be cool to visit the past of Arrow or something like that. Or just see a different Earth where characters are in different places. Maybe we'll get an Arrow version of Flashpoint in terms of seeing a different Earth, which will be awesome. But the main character who I want to see return is Tommy Merlin. Now, he's been dead since the season 1 final, and he's only returned 4 or 5 times since. I want to say he returned in season 2 in the mid-season final. He returned twice in season 3 in episode 2 or 3. I can't remember exactly which episode. He returned in episode 2 or 3 in the flashbacks, and then he returned again in the flashbacks in episode 14 or 15. It was the episode where the present-day flashback, or the flashbacks took place in Star City. We saw Tommy Merlin in that. I don't think we saw him in season 4. We saw him, I guess if it counts, we saw him in the 100th, which was like a version of him that it was just like a random snippet from a prior episode that we saw him in. But then we did see him in Crisis on Earth X, as he was Earth X's version of Prometheus, and we saw him in episode 22 of season 6, or episode 21, I can't remember exactly. It was the one with the trial, and then he came in, he was like, I'm the Green Arrow, except it was actually Christopher Chance. And then the most recent time we saw him was episode 21 of season 7, where he was a hallucination for Oliver. I like to think that hallucination was actually the Monitor, like, forcing Oliver to get up, which would have been cool. But, yeah, Tommy Merlin is a character who, in all of his appearances, he has never had a big appearance since he died. All of his appearances have been really minor and small, and like a couple minutes each, which has been sucky. Because he's in my top 3 favorite characters in the Arrowverse, along with Oliver and Slade. And I'm so upset that we haven't gone, especially since in the comics, there are 2 Dark Archers. The main one, the one that goes way back since the very early comics, is Tommy Merlin. Since the very beginning of the Green Arrow comics, is Tommy Merlin. That is the main Dark Archer. And I thought that it was inevitable when season 3 of Arrowstar. I thought there was the logical place for them to go was to have Tommy have been put in the Lazarus Pit by Malcolm sometime after season 1, because Malcolm would have known about the Lazarus Pit, and Malcolm loved his son. Why wouldn't he have taken Tommy to the Lazarus Pit? And he'd kept him hidden for a couple of years, and Tommy was going to come back as the new Dark Archer. I thought Prometheus was going to be revealed to be the Dark Archer because of how similar Adrian's gear looked to a League of Assassins person, or to the Dark Archer. So I was like, if they had Tommy be the Dark Archer, and just have his mind be twisted after years in the Lazarus Pit or whatever, and he's been training with Malcolm for years, it would have been so cool and such an interesting way to go with the character. And I'm so upset that they never got to do that. I'm really hoping that they'll somehow do something like that with season 8, because while they kind of did it with Prometheus and Crisis on Earth X, like, Tommy had about a minute screen time in that entire crossover, and it sucked. So I would love them to bring back. And Tommy Merlin, or the actor Colin Donnell, the reason why he hasn't been able to come back in any substantial way on Arrow is because he's been busy with Chicago MD, I think the name of the TV show is. But he was a full-time cast member on that, and he's been big on that the last couple of years, so he hasn't been able to come back to Arrow due to that. But he's not on that show anymore. He actually left that show at the end of its most recent season, which would have freed him up. If Arrow is filming, he would be around to do that. So I think that now we are having the most, like, it's, if we were ever going to see Tommy, season 8 is the most likely time we're going to see him in a big way, just because of how everything's lined up. It being the final season, it only being 10 episodes, and also with Colin Donnell being free. I really, really hope we get to see Tommy again. Another character I'd love to see is Slade Wilson, Deathstroke. We haven't seen him since season 6, and Slade's history in the Arrowverse has been kind of weird. After season 2, after mid-season 3, he basically had to be shelved because the DCEU revealed that they wanted to use Deathstroke, and they had him in Justice League. They had him ready to be in the Batman movie. None of that seems to be going ahead anymore, so we got Slade back for season 6 of Arrow, and we haven't seen him since. But it seems like they can use Deathstroke again because Jericho, Slade's son, he was in the Deathstroke gear in the Elseworlds, the most recent crossover, which, even though it wasn't Slade, I feel like if DC was still pretty against Slade showing up, or at least Deathstroke showing up in the show, they wouldn't have let them even use the Deathstroke outfit. They would have been like, no, you can't do that. The fact that they let Slade's son use the Deathstroke outfit makes me think that they're okay with Slade coming back if he was going to. I think season 8 is a possible time to bring him back. I think it'd be awesome to see Oliver, Slade, and the Monitor going around the multiverse, like taking people to recruit. Maybe they even recruit Slade. How fucking cool would that be? Slade's one of the coolest characters we had in the show, and I've already said he's in my top 3 up there with Tommy and Oliver. So I would love to see him come back in some shape or form. I think it is likely we will see him, though, because Slade has always been a character that they have tried their absolute hardest to get when they can. And knowing that it's Arrow's final season, I feel like Manu, because with Arrow ending, I think it's likely that we probably won't see this interpretation of Slade Wilson again, because it just wouldn't make sense for him to show up in The Flash, or for him to show up in Supergirl, or Legends of Tomorrow. Well, Legends of Tomorrow I could see, but Legends is weird. They don't really do villains from other shows anymore. In season 1 and 2 of Legends, we always saw villains from other shows. From season 3 onwards, they kind of just do their own villains now, which is fine. I get it. They want to branch out their rogues gallery. But because of that, I feel like it's probably not too likely we'll see Slade ever in that. So I think if Arrow ends, it is ending. With Arrow's end, that kind of also tells us that Manu won't be Slade anymore, which will be frustrating. I get it. So I feel like because of that, Manu will want to come back for season 8 in some form. I think he'll be like, this is my last time to play the character, and I know he loves playing Deathstroke. He was very vocal about how he didn't like how the writers handled him in season 3. So I think due to all this, he would be definitely on board to come back, and I know that the cast crew of Arrow would jump at the chance to have Slade in the season. So I think it's likely we will see him. Other characters, Helena Bertinelli, aka the Huntress, she hasn't been seen at all since season 2. I don't even think she was referenced between seasons 3 and 6. I know she was referenced towards the end of 6, and then early season 7 in episode in the 150th. We know that the vigilante guy, what was his name, Shimitar? Nope, that's the guy from early season 5. What was the name of the villain who was like, he was a vigilante fanboy, but in the 150th, well, he took Helena's mask. Maybe she comes back looking for it. Maybe we see something like that. I think Helena Bertinelli is a character that kind of needs to be brought back, because we know that we know that as of season 7, she was still going around being a vigilante because her mask was stolen. Like, she still had her mask on her. We also just kind of need some resolution with her character, because she left on some pretty villainous terms. And it was very ominous how she left. Like, we were kind of like, yeah, she's going to come back. And I'm actually really surprised that they haven't brought her back at all yet. And like, over the years, considering how she had quite a bit of episodes devoted to her in season 1 and season 2 as well, it seemed to be like this thing that they were going to have her show up every season leading up to a Birds of Prey episode, and then they did a Birds of Prey episode and she was nowhere to be found in it. The thing though is also that the Birds of Prey movie, the DCEU one, is probably preventing them from using Helena at least the last year. I want to say that it's been preventing the show from using Helena. The thing is that there was like a solid 2 or 3 years there where they could have used the character and they just didn't, which is kind of odd to me. And I know that Mark Guggenheim has also said that he really wanted to bring Helena back at points, and I we haven't really heard anything from the actress or anybody else besides Mark, so it really is just kind of weird to me that they've never brought back the character in any form. Another character that is really obscure is McKenna Hall, and she was a love interest for like 5 episodes in season 1. She was also she was around during the whole Helena arc when Helena was transitioning to becoming the Huntress, and Oliver was like kind of in love with her, I guess, but then she left off. She said she was going to Coast City, and Oliver was like, I can move to Coast City if he wants to see her and whatnot, and we just never saw her again. And she seemed like she'd be a character that will be recurring a lot. The reason why I'd like to see her again is not necessarily because I liked her character. She was fine. Like, there was nothing bad about her, but there was nothing exactly standout-ish either. It just would be nice to see her again because she was a character that worked well with Oliver, and we never really got a resolution for her or her story. You know, it always kind of was left on a note where we were like, we'll probably see her again at some point, but then we never did. So I would just like her to return, just so we don't have many characters that are kind of still up in the air on where they are. Thea, Queen, Oliver's sister, is also a big character we need to see again. She was a main character in the show for the first 5 seasons. Then she was still a big character in the show in season 6. She was only in one episode of season 7, which was the 150th, and we haven't seen her since. But she's been such a crucial part of the show between season 1 and even now. She's still a crucial part of the show. Like, a lot of Roy's story in season 7 was about Thea. Like, he still brought up Thea a lot of the time. He still talked about her a lot of the time. She's had such lasting impact on the show that I think it will be such a huge miss to go out without her. I think, honestly, my ideal scenario for this would for them to bring her back full time for the final season, just because of how crucial she's been to the show's history. I actually think that they will bring her back because Willa Holland, I know that she wasn't exactly happy with how her character was dealt with the last couple of seasons, which I can't blame her because Thea was honestly put in the back burner to prop up a lot of other characters. She was never necessarily given much good story since early season 5, so I can see why she wanted an out, but at the same time, it being Arrow's final season, I think that Willa Holland would appreciate coming back, which, like, it's Arrow's final season. We need to get as many of these old characters back as we can, and they don't get much older in Arrow than this, which is Walter Steele, a character who hasn't been seen since late season 2. He's actually Zod on another DC-related show at the moment, but Walter Steele was a character who just disappeared. He was very important for the first 2 seasons. He wasn't in season... Well, actually, I've just remembered he wasn't really in season 2 much at all. He was in like 3 or 4 episodes. But he was huge in season 1. Then he went down to a smaller role in season 2, but he was still kind of there. And then after Moira's funeral, he just disappeared and we never saw him again. He's been referenced like twice since then. And he's a character that we just have no idea what happened to. He hasn't shown up for any of the big things that happened. And he was so attached to the Queen family. And like, he was a father figure for Thea for so many years. And then once Oliver came back, he just kind of like slowly stepped into the limelight. And then once Queen Consolidated went away, he was like, yeah, okay, I'm just going to leave and not return. It was so weird because he was a character that it seemed like he was going to be around for a while and he was going to have a story to tell and then just disappear. And he's another character I think needs some resolution for his story or for his character. I think he needs to be seen in some shape or form. You know, he was there when Arrow began. It would be great to see him when Arrow ends. Then there are so many other villains that the show has gone over through the year. Count Vertigo is one that comes to mind. He's an iconic Green Arrow villain and he was in like 2 episodes. It felt like in season 3 of the show they were really trying to set up Vertigo as an important character, but then he just kind of disappeared. I think seeing him again will be good. Then there's like Cupid, Katana, Nyssa, Evelyn, Talia. So many characters who have just been really forgotten over the years that I really would like to see some resolution with, especially characters like Evelyn and Talia, who Well, actually, Talia was seen season 7. Talia did kind of leave on an ominous note, so I would like to see some resolution with her. Evelyn, definitely. Because she was just... We don't even have any confirmation that she's alive. And when Lian Yu blew up, she was just left in a cage, and we don't know what happened to her. I feel like we need some definitive, yes, she's dead, or yes, she's alive. And if she's alive, I would like to see her. Katana is another character that, because of Suicide Squad, she got given the bad end of the stick, and she never really got to do much after Season 3. So I'd like to see her return, because I think she's only been in one episode since Season 3. So it would be good to see what she's up to. Ra's al Ghul is... I'd like to see him. It would be cool to know he's still out there. Maybe he came back through Lazarus-related stuff. Malcolm Merlin's another character who, even though he's dead, I think... It's Malcolm Merlin. He was the first villain. I would like to see him again in some shape or form. A lot of the newer villains and characters, like Caden James or Ricardo Diaz, I feel like we can definitely do without. Just because of how recent they were, and also because they weren't very good. I love the actors, like for Kirk Acevedo for Diaz and Michael Emerson for Caden James. Brilliant actors who played very poorly written and underwhelming characters. So I honestly wouldn't be too enthusiastic to see them back. Dinah Lance, who was Laurel and Sarah's mother, it'd be cool to see her again. Quentin in some shape or form. Like, Arrow really does have a huge pool of characters built from. A wild card I would love to see is Vigilante, because Vigilante was such a badass character. Now, he wasn't really badass once it was revealed to be Vincent. He was a little bit weird after that, but before he was revealed to be Vincent, I thought he was such a badass character. I'd like to see him again. Adrian Chase or Simon Morrison, just Prometheus. I want to see him again. Josh Segar is a brilliant actor. And then Ragaman, I guess, as well, who was a small-time, one-time member of Team Arrow. That's just a bunch of characters I would love to see in the show, where I think need some resolution for Season 8. But what do you think? Is there any characters you would really love to see? And please let me know. If you have any ideas for DC or Marvel related videos, please let me know, and I'd love to do them. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, all that, and I hope you have an awesome day.